Laney GH100L, pretty much on the surface a JCM800 with an extra gain stage. This one came in poorly, it was cutting out, going quiet. Went through all the valves, thought it might have been valves, which is normally the problem, but it all turned out to be was a dirty 16 ohm speaker socket, because the customer would normally use the two 8 ohm sockets and they didn't have a problem, but the 16 ohm one was dirty. So moral of the story, people, keep your rear holes nice and clean, otherwise you may have problems. So let's have a listen. So like I said, it's a JCM800 underneath essentially, with an extra gain stage which is switchable here. It does have some circuit tweaks when looking at the diagram. What they've done, they've voltage dropped each preamp tube in stages as they go from the phase inverter to the front, the first stage. Each one getting progressively lower, giving it a bit more gain, very much like a Soldano. We'll start off very early crunchy, you get a kind of a plexi feel. Got a resonance switch. All that does, it reduces, it goes from a standard Marshall speaker dampening, it's quite tight, and open it up, it just lets a little bit more low end through, which I think sounds nicer. We're probably just under gig volume. Also, when I checked this, the bias was very low. I put it to within the correct settings, but playing it, it sounded bloody awful. So, that's not true. It just sounded a bit more brittle and harsher and almost stiffer to play. So I turned it down. It was a bit. I've turned it up from where it was, but when playing with it, it sounded much nicer with a cooler bias. Strangely, normally you would expect it to sound better with a hotter bias, but this actually sounds better with a cooler bias, which means your tubes will last a bit longer. We'll up the gain a bit more. Around about 7 is kind of where a JCM800 would top out. So before we even kicked in the other gain stage, where you would be, you can go a bit louder. More. And then we can give it a bit more with the extra gain stage, so we go back to sort of the 800s max. And give it a bit more. It will get noisy. It's just the way it goes. stupid amounts of gain. Oh. Excuse the noises. Around about 7 and 7 is probably the ideal. Great rhythm and tone. And then all the gain in the world you could ever want. Massively underrated amp. You can pick them up for sort of 300-400 quid second hand. It's essentially a Soldano. If you can't afford a JCM 800, they're around £800-900, £1,500 new. You'd be hard pressed to get a better amp. I love them. I remember when they came out. I'm old.